Hello, my name's Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be taking a look at my boy Xiao. I'm so excited that he's finally into the game, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at his talents as well as give you guys some build suggestions, and I'm even going to throw in a new one today and suggest a couple characters you might want to be pairing with him. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pop into the video. First off, we'll go ahead and start with his normal and charged attack. The pattern here is extremely cool looking and is probably one of my favorite parts about him, and there's nothing too crazy here other than the fact that Xiao does not take damage from performing plunging attacks, which is a big deal there. And you see the scalings here are pretty rock solid as well, and you can see how they also scale as you level up as well. We do have talent level 7 here, which is pretty good. I'm trying to get him up. I will be putting out my actual build video on him before too long, so stay tuned for that as well. I'm going to be posting a more in-depth build guide, but these are just kind of my preliminary reactions. Anyway, yeah, these are the normal attacks and charge attacks here, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. So as I said, the pattern here is so cool. It looks so sweet. And there is one unique thing about his pattern here that is a little bit different from other spirit characters that I've noticed. He does hit multiple characters with this attack pattern, and then his charged attack doesn't lunge forward like other spirit characters. It launches other enemies into the air, and it covers a pretty decent area right there and is pretty darn strong. And you can see we were able to use it quite a bit there without really having an issue, and that's something you want to take into account. Moving on to his second talent here, we have Lemnis Static Wind Cycling. Xiao lunges forward, dealing animo damage up to opponents in his path. Can be used in midair and starts with 2 charges. This is like my new favorite traversal tool. It feels so good, it does pretty rock solid damage, and has a decent cooldown of 10 seconds, especially considering the fact that you get 2 charges there. And you guys can check out the scaling for yourselves from 6 to 7, not too bad. And then taking a look at that in action, you see dash forward, basically whatever direction you're facing you'll go. And then you can see he can also do it in mid-air, going whatever direction he wants as well. Moving on to Xiao's elemental burst here, we have Bane of All Evil. Xiao dons the Yaksha mask that set gods and demons trembling up millennia ago. So basically when it puts on this mask, Xiao's jumping height increases like an insane amount, and it also increases his attack AoE and attack damage. And then it also converts all of his attack damage to animo damage, and it cannot be overridden. That is very important to know. And in this state, he will lose HP continuously. However, the HP loss effect isn't really too much, but it definitely is there, so it's something you want to keep in mind. And the effects of the elemental burst will end if he leaves the field, so that's also important to note. And then here is the scaling for everybody. You notice you get a attack damage bonus here. That's pretty darn good. That's kind of a lot. And this does scale up as well. It's going to give you that, 81 at one point. And then you see as you level up, the life drain also decreases. So in my next level, I go from 2.5 to 2% there. So that's going to make the HP drain even, less substantial, even though it's not even that bad right now. And you will note he is the first character in the game to have a 70 energy cost, which is a very new one for us to mess with. It's definitely a substantial amount, like the 80 cost, but, it's definitely not as bad to get to, and you'll notice that if you actually give him a shot. Alright, and to give you guys an idea of what it all looks like, we'll go ahead and pop him into actual combat here. I have Sucrose just kind of acting as a battery right now to go ahead and get him some orbs here, and you can actually check out how all of this looks. You see he looks pretty darn sick whenever you actually start doing this. You can jump up significantly high, do those huge plunges, get an attack in between those plunges as well. That's very important to know, especially if you're using a character like Xiao that's going to allow you to proc all of his elemental bursts there. And you see everything just kind of died. And we did lose some health, but we didn't really start with that much either. And you can definitely mitigate that if you're using somebody like Xiao or Noelle, making sure you're not taking any damage and even healing yourself. And it's just a really strong elemental burst. Moving on to his fourth talent here, we have Conqueror of Evil, Tamer of Demons. While under the effects of Bane of All Evil, all damage dealt by Xiao increases by 5%, damage increased by a further 5% for every 3 seconds the ability persists. The maximum damage bonus is 25%, so if you stay in his burst the whole time, you're just going to be doing more damage the longer it goes on. I don't really have to tell you that this is amazing, it's pretty darn strong. Moving on to his fifth talent here, we have Disillusion Eon, Heaven's Fall. Using lemniscatic wind cycling increases the damage of subsequent uses of lemniscatic wind cycling by 15%. This effect lasts for 7 seconds and has a maximum of 3 stacks. Gaining a new stack refreshes the effect's duration. This is where the skill ceiling for Xiao really comes into play, especially since you start with 2 charges here. Since it does maximum up to 3 stacks and the effect lasts for 7 seconds, if you just wait to use your second dash, you can gain the maximum damage bonus on your next charge after the cooldown of your first lemniscatic wind cycling effect goes over. So basically what I'm saying is, it's probably going to be easier to show here, is you use the first one, you wait a few seconds, and around the 4-second mark or so, you're going to want to use it again, and then by the time the effect of your next damage bonus goes, you'll be able to use a third one and gain the maximum damage bonus on that. And then for his final passive talent here, we have Transcession Gravity Defier. Decreases climbing stamina consumption for your own party members by 20%, not stackable with passive talents that provide the exact same effects. This is really good for the open world. His little dash is pretty nice already, and then just the reduction of stamina, you really can't complain. And then right before we go to the actual build suggestion portion of this video, we will briefly go over his constellations, although I will say Xiao really doesn't need any of them. I'm personally going to attempt to go for his C1, and then I'm going to stop there because it's really good. It just gives you an extra charge on his E there, which means you can get that damage bonus a lot easier rather than having to wait. But other than that, the others aren't too crazy. A little increased energy recharge here. We get 100% more defense when his HP is below 50%, which is okay, I guess, for the survivability. And then his C6 is really strong here. While under the effects of Bane of All Evil, hitting at least 2 opponents with Xiao's plunging attack will immediately grant him 1 charge of lemniscatic wind cycling, and for the next 1 second he may use lemniscatic wind cycling while ignoring its cooldown. So basically, you jump up in the air, if you hit multiple opponents, you can just spam lemniscatic wind cycling for a hot second. It's pretty insane, and the damage output is absolutely ludicrous, but most of us aren't going to be getting C6. And before moving on to the build portion here, I will give you guys a brief overview of his story. I'm not going to read it or anything. You guys can go ahead and pause and read it if you want. I'm just going to briefly go over this, and let's go ahead and pop to the build. As for builds for Xiao, you definitely have a couple options, but I think you are pretty much almost guaranteed going to want to be using at least the 2-piece Viridescent Veneer. You can go 4-piece. That's personally what I'm going to do because I really like trying to pair him with people like Xiao or somebody like Beidou. And I think the decrease in their elemental resonance as well as the increase in swirl damage is really strong as well, and I just really like using him in that way. However, if you don't really want to deal with the debuffs or anything, you could easily just go 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Viridescent Veneer, and that will work as well. You could go for something like 2-piece Bloodstained and 2-piece Viridescent, but I really don't think that's going to be the best option for you, because when he is in his Elemental Burst, all of his damage is overridden to Animo, so you kind of lose out at that point, and I just really wouldn't think it's worth it. I think you'd be better off doing a 4-piece Viridescent or the 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Viridescent. I think those are going to be your best in slot, but you probably could do some wonky like Elemental Mastery builds, or something with something like the Wanderer's Troop set. But I'm going to leave that one up to you. I don't think those are the most optimal builds. I do think the best ones are definitely going to be the 4-piece Viridescent Veneer, or the 2-piece Viridescent Veneer and the 2-piece Gladiator, as those are just going to yield the best results for you. As for main stats, I think you're probably going to want to be going for things like attack percent, followed up by Animo damage bonus, and then obviously crit rate or crit damage depending on your stat distribution and how much crit rate and crit damage you can get. You just want to shoot for that 2-to-1 ratio. As for substats for Xiao, you're really going to want to focus on attack percent, energy recharge, and crit rate or crit damage. You don't really need to worry about anything else for Xiao, like, you know, the other characters that we've had lately. So you can just kind of keep it simple on him. Crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, energy recharge. However, I will say energy recharge is probably going to be one of the more important ones. I would probably put that at the top of the list. I would probably put it, you know, at the same level as crit damage, as the energy recharge here is really going to help out your ability to use his elemental burst as often as possible, and that is extremely valuable. As for weapons for Xiao, you got a few options, and obviously I'm not using the best one. Crescent Pike is an okay option, don't get me wrong, but it is certainly not Xiao's best in slot. In fact, most of the spears I have aren't very good for Xiao. You could use something like Favonius Lance and guarantee that you're getting his burst as often as possible, but I really don't think that's going to be the best move for you. For those of you who are free to play and also don't have any good weapons, the White Tassel is definitely an option for you. It is a 3-star and it does have low base attack, but it does have that crit rate subset and increases your normal attack damage by 48%, which is pretty nice. But I still don't think that's going to be the best free-to-play option, but if you really are hurting for spears, this is definitely an option to have. In terms of some of the best weapons for Xiao, I think best in slot is probably going to be the Primordial Jade Spear. Right here, that's probably going to do the best for you. It has a crit rate substat and its bonus is really strong as well. The Skyward Spine definitely isn't bad either. That also really helps with him with the energy recharge substat. Definitely going to help out his burst coming along. Staff of Homa also isn't going to be bad, neither is Vortex Vanquisher. Basically, if you have a 5-star spear, you're not going to be hurting. But in terms of best 4-star spears, you're going to want to look at things like the prototype Star Glitter is probably going to be your best free-to-play option other than the Black Cliff Pull. If you can get the Black Cliff Pull whenever it comes into the shop again, then I would highly recommend that, as that's going to be a really strong option on him. Or the Deathmatch here is also going to be an amazing option here. It has that crit rate subset, and his Hidden Ascension bonus is crit rate, so that's just going to guarantee your crit rate then and there, and you're not going to have to worry about any crit rate subsets. You just focus on crit damage, which is really nice. But other than that, the Lithic Spear is also going to be a good option for you. We don't have its bonus guaranteed. I will flash up the information of the Lithic Spear here real quick. It's supposed to have an attack percent substat, and its bonus seems like it's going to be giving you some crit rate based on how many leeway characters you have. And if that's true, this is going to be a very strong option as its base attack is really strong. But other than that, I don't think there are too many other options. I think these are probably going to be your best options. Some of you might be asking about the Royal Spear, and I just don't think it's worth it. It's too inconsistent with the crit rate it gives, and you'd just be better off having a crit rate weapon like the Deathmatch or Primordial Jade Spear, or just having a crit rate helmet and, you know, relying on Xiao's Hidden Ascension bonus. And I think that would probably be the best you could do at that point. Now, I did mention I would briefly go over some character suggestions to pair with Xiao, and so far I really like Xingqiu with Xiao. The big problem with Xingqiu and Xiao is the fact that the Rain Cutter Elemental Burst here does not happen on his plunging attacks, but as I did note, when you do his plunge attacks, you can get in one normal attack before jumping it again to do a plunge attack, which means you can get the Rain Swords to attack again, which allows you to capitalize on Xingqiu's elemental burst on him. But the E skill here for Xingqiu really does help out Xiao. That damage resistance plus the little bit of healing is absolutely huge, and I highly recommend it. I really like it so far. And then other characters that really pair with him, I'll also mention that Beidou is a very good option for him, as Beidou's elemental burst does kind of go with normal and charge attacks once you use it. So that's important to note as well. You're also probably going to have to fit in a normal attack whenever you do your plunges as well. Or if you're just doing normal and charge attacks while in his elemental burst instead of doing the plunge, that's also totally fine. However, the plunge is probably going to yield the most damage for you. And then another character you can pair with him is obviously people like Fischl or Xiangling. People whose skills stay on the field when they're not are going to be huge with him, especially if you have C6 Fischl like me. This C6 is absolutely insane, and if you're normal attacking a lot with Xiao, then Fischl is going to be probably one of the best options for him. Other than that, some other really good options are going to be people like Qiqi. Qiqi really does help out a lot, considering the fact that her healing happens while she's off the field. You just use her E. It's going to be applying cryo, and it's going to be healing you, allowing you to swirl cryo and heal yourself at the same time, which is really strong. And I think this is probably going to be one of the better options for Xiao, considering the fact that Qiqi's healing is just so insane. And if you're somebody who gets somebody like the Lithic Spear in the future, then that's just going to be even better. You could pair somebody like Barbara as well. She has kind of the same concept as Qiqi going on, where she's going to be able to heal Xiao periodically while off the field, and that's really going to help out when that HP drain is going on. Diona also pairs really well, being more of a preventative measure, having the extremely strong shield and then being able to heal him with her burst every now and then is definitely a good option. And I also really like the increased movement speed and reduction in stamina consumption on Xiao. That is definitely nice as well. Anyway, that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like and comment below your thoughts on Xiao, as I would love to hear them. I'm personally loving him so far, and he's probably going to be my main DPS for a while until somebody more interesting comes out, because his playstyle is just so fun. Anyway, I'm going to be putting out that build video soon as well, so stay tuned for that, and I'm going to be giving up a Noel update very soon as well, so stay tuned for that as well. Anyway, my name's Blossoms, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.